Ah, would you look at that? A rematch over 100 chapters in the making. What's up guys, I'm here, and here we are to do a breakdown / live reaction and sort of review to Eternal Flames. Can Yuji beat Mahito now? Now, obviously, Yuji's been getting a whole bunch of amps in the manga, and obviously Mahito's been out of the manga for around what? I think it is literally like 100 chapters. Like, this man's been cooked for a while now. So, the question still stands. Well, with all of his power development, all of his development as a character, and all of his development overall as a combatant, could Yuji Itadori, the cog of Jujutsu Kaisen, stand tall and stand proud and defeat Mahito, the embodiment of the fear of humanity, all on his own? I have my own take on the idea that we'll hop into in a second, but let's see what Eternal Flame has to say. Editing me, I summon thee to this plane of reality. Ready. 3, 2, 1, go. Whew. Oh, the intro keeps getting better and better. Okay. Actually, I'll let him get through the entire intro, then I'll spitball my own thoughts on it real quick, and then we'll actually hop fully into the video itself. Let me peep this full intro real quick. Hold on.
Hello everybody, I'm Eternal Flame, and welcome to Yuji versus Mahito, yeah! So today we're going to be comparing current Yuji in chapter 214 of the manga, because I don't think I need to talk about Yuji in 244. If you think that is a close fight, then please seek help. However, I'm going to talk about...
Alright, let me start right into yeah, I thought he was gonna do current Yuji, like most relevant Yuji, like Yuji that, you know, punched Sukuna and made him do a wiggle jiggle a little bit. I thought we were gonna talk about that Yuji. And hi, it's your guy who, luckily enough, does not have to seek help, because I personally, yeah, I agree. Like, there's no, I mean, like, is there even really an argument? Like, sure, the only argument you could make is that, like, Sukuna isn't taking Yuji seriously, but, like, there's nothing. And I mean nothing. And I mean nothing to suggest that Mahito even scales close. And by close, I mean, like, at all, like, at anywhere near 15 finger. So, even in its lowest estimation, Yuji being able to tag, make Sukuna block with 3 arms for 1 hit, and still make Sukuna do a wiggle jiggle, yeah, I'm sorry, that 1 hit is probably atomizing Mahito. And personally, I'm in the camp that Yuji didn't lose his soul perception ability. If anything, I think it's only gotten better, because remember, the soul perception ability was something subconsciously that he unlocked when he first held Sukuna inside him. There's no reason for that to just magically disappear, even though Sukuna's gone. The only thing Yuji's lost with Sukuna's disappearance and his liberation is, you know, well, the Sukuna immunity to Mahito's ability. Would Mahito even know that? Hard to tell. I don't think he would. Like, I legit don't think he'd actually know that. So it's very likely that Mahito, without Yuji explicitly telling him, oh, by the way, Sukuna's gone, Mahito's likely not going to go for that, and Yuji's more than fast enough and more than strong enough to just bully that man out of existence in the current. For 214 Yuji, the one that was aka liberated Yuji, yeah, a kind of similar story at that point. Once again, Mahito would have no idea. Actually, if he knows the eyes are a sign of Sukuna, then he would see that Yuji doesn't have them. But the thing is, with the speed that Yuji unlocks post his liberation, he could just piece up Mahito horribly. The amount of damage he'd be doing to Mahito's soul in such quick succession, heaven forbid he lands a black flash with his new strength, he would most likely wipe Mahito. Of course, if Mahito opens domain at all and tags Yuji, then I think Yuji's cooked. Unless it's the 0.2 second domain. In that case, Yuji will cut off his own hand and then just beat Mahito. But if Mahito opens a full proper domain and starts mixing and munching, I don't think there's anything to really suggest that Yuji, especially 214 Yuji, has suddenly gained, like, Sukuna level resistance to his soul. I still think he would be a domain victim then and only then. But that's the only thing. I don't see Mahito touching 214 Yuji. I don't see Mahito beating 214 Yuji without that external thing, which is his domain. He's not touching him with anything else, and none of Mahito's other attacks would do anything. But those are my thoughts. Let's actually see what Eternal Flame has to say about 214 Yuji in particular. I'm quite excited. Let's take a good look, Galliander.
Yuji from chapter 214, and see if those Yujis can do decently well against Mahito, and see how the two of them do in a battle against each other. Now, thankfully, the two of them have actually pretty comparable stats, and it
Have
makes it a
subscribed
lot
and like the
easier
video real
to
quick.
compare them, unlike some other characters, where you actually have to like create backward scaling threads off characters for who they scale to, purely because Yuji and Mahito mainly fight each other for the time that Mahito is alive for, so Mahito's main scaling is off of Yuji directly, so that makes this a lot easier to talk about. Now, in terms of actual stats, like hand-to-hand combat, that type of stuff, Mahito scales relative, if not a bit above, 120% amped Yuji, which is the Yuji after he lands the Black Flash and the second Black Flash. The reason why that we know they scale relative is the fact that they're able to clash fists several times, and
Yeah, in terms of skill, I mean, Yuji has training in karate, I do believe. I think that's explained in a fan book. That's about it. So Mahito is actually very, very impressive for being able to go relative to Yuji with sheer physicals. And obviously once he hits true spirit body of distorted execution, like, bro leaps up in terms of physical prowess even more in comparison to before. So Yuji being able to, Mahito being able to compete with Yuji on 120% and even completely negate him, like, what's the statement? I think it may be like right after that chapter in a manga volume, I think it's stated that like if Yuji didn't land that Black Flash when he did, Mahito would have torn him to shreds. So, like, overall, the only sad thing about true spirit body of distorted execution, Mahito, instant spirit body, whatever the long behind name is. The only unfortunate thing is, though, in that external statement that explains that Mahito would have torn Yuji to shreds, the only thing that Mahito gets from this isn't a speed boost, isn't a power boost, isn't a combat skill boost, nothing. In fact, he loses a whole bunch of flexibility due to the rigidity. He only gets a 200% defense boost. Before that statement came out, a lot of people thought Mahito got a universal stat buff, like better strength, better speed, better durability. But no, it's just a better durability. And 200% is good, but 214 Yuji is much more powerful than just 2 times stronger than his 120% self. So we'll see what Eternal Flame has to say about that, though. Let's actually hop into it.
Yuji is able to deflect several of his hits during the fight. However, we know that Mahito's durability itself massively exceeds that of Yuji, considering the fact that Yuji's normal hits cannot reach Mahito, and only the Black Flash will actually be able to do damage against Mahito. Now, while Gege does directly say if Mahito didn't take the Black Flash before
Yep, this statement right here. Let me see if let me hit this real quick. This is awesome. Instant spirit body of distorted execution. Mahito's true unbridled soul. 200% tougher than his original form, according to his own estimates. So see, that's even, I guess, maybe, I don't know. A binding vow further increases his toughness in exchange for halting his metamorphosis. Only his hands are like the original form. In other words, even when in instant spirit body of distorted execution, he can use idle transfiguration. Blaze, due to the binding vow shortening the metamorphosis cycle, he hardly sacrifices any toughness even when catching opponents with a moderate distance, and sort of like Senku Kogetsu from the World Trigger. So, I didn't include an explanation in the manga. Especially since the form literally appears and perishes within like 2 chapters. True instant spirit body of distorted execution Mahito doesn't exist for that long. And unfortunately, he gets nailed with a Black Flash way too soon. If Itadori hadn't nailed Mahito with a Black Flash, Mahito would have torn him to shreds. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clearly implied. When they first start their exchange, he literally just showed it in the panel. Like, Yuji's literally getting ripped apart. Like, being torn piece by piece by piece by piece. He's something completely different than before his transformation. And really, that's the only weird thing. Like, the 200% toughness. I guess you could argue 200% tougher could be, like, overall. Like, toughness could be, like, a universal power thing. Because it does seem weird that Yuji and him go from mink, 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 mink in terms of relative combat speed, exchanging blow for blow. But then suddenly Mahito's toughness increases and Yuji can't do anything. But the reason I take the 200% toughness statement at face value is because, well, Gege states it for one. And for two, like, there's no other reason not to. Like that's at least, for me, I don't really see any other reason why this wouldn't qualify as a 200% defense increase. And you can definitely argue the reason Mahito seems so dominant now is because before, where Yuji's hits would stagger Mahito, now they don't stagger him. So Mahito's just freely able to mink, 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 without ever having to worry about Yuji's basic hits. And that's why the Black Flash does so much damage, because that one is actually able to compromise his now 200% toughness. And once again, going back to the original statement that I made, yeah, Yuji gets much more than 200% stronger when he gets his liberation in 214. You can definitely argue he even gets stronger before that. Like, if you think that post Culling Gibbs, but post Shibuya Yuji should scale at least relative to 100% self, if not superior, after fully healing when he goes up against Sakari. Bro may be a demon. But, of course, let's see what Eternal Flame has to say.
Transformed, he would have destroyed Yuji. It should also be noted, Yuji was by far and away the most injured of everyone in that fight, with Mahito earlier making a statement that Yuji was at 10% of his soul HP, and the only one who was actually doing damage to Mahito that entire time was Yuji beforehand. Todo can't actually hurt Mahito due to the fact that Mahito can only really be hurt by attacks that damage the soul. So we know speed-wise and attack potency-wise, Mahito is relative to the Yuji Itadori, who's only landed 2 Black Flashes, but he can get heavily injured by Yuji after he lands a 3rd Black Flash. However, Mahito's normal durability allows him to not feel hits from Yuji before he lands that 3rd Black Flash. Now, where does that compare to Yuji now? Well, Yuji Itadori was able to get stronger 4 separate times after this battle, where the first time he got stronger is because he lands another Black Flash on Mahito, which is equal to another 120% of his potential being pulled out. And we know Black Flash amp stack purely because of the fact that Mahito needed to land a 2nd Black Flash in order to transform into this form to begin with. He is then called a demon god in comparison to what he was before by Choso directly, only when he's partially healed. And then he...
Okay, to be fair though, I think the Choso, well actually, I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter because he'd be stronger regardless, but like, Choso doesn't know about 120, well actually, maybe he does, because Choso does pull up to the Urume battle, the Urume and kenjaku, so maybe Choso does know, if he can recognize, like, because yeah, actually, Choso does know, never mind, yeah, Choso would most likely be comparing 120% Yuji, because Mahito's loss to Yuji immediately follows the walk down of, you know, the strongest, and then what happens after that is kenjaku or Ume show up. We have the little conflict. Choso shows up. So as long as Choso was paying attention to how much more powerful Yuji had gotten by that point, then yeah, after recovering just a little bit, most likely only like halfway there, if we're being generous, him comparing 120% Yuji to Demon God Yuji, he believes that he's just gotten even more powerful from that point, just from recovering. So yeah,
it's fully healed, so he should get even stronger after that. Then he gets a massive power amp after Sukuna is released from him. All of this is to say Yuji right now should most definitely be able to hit and hurt Mahito with his normal attacks. So if this was just a pure raw fisticuff matchups, then normally Mahito would lose absolutely and heavily towards this much stronger Yuji.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the weird thing about Black Flash in particular. Is it actually raised to 2.5 times? Level with me. Is it actually? Like, at least within the narrative. Like, it sounds cool. It sounds powerful. And if I had to Google, I'd pull up the map. But I think someone calced it, right? Like, hypothetically, Gojo's Black Flash, spoilers for the manga, by the way, but obviously. But Gojo's Black Flash that he landed on Sukuna. If you think Gojo, let's just say, going with the lowest estimate, we'll ignore Yuki's black hole, ignore the Sukuna destroying the world statements at full power, all that. We'll ignore all that. Just going with like the lowest estimation. If Gojo is mountain level, because Jogo is mountain level thanks to his domain, and he has enough of his energy to maintain and create that domain, and creation feats should scale relative to destruction feats and destructive output, because, you know, creation is equal to destruction. You need to use the same, actually, technically creation is greater to destruction, because it takes much more energy to create things than it is to destroy it. But regardless, let's just say Jogo's mountain level. And let's say Chogo and Gojo are equal in attack potency, even though that's clearly not the case. Let's say this. 2.5 times in that blue ant punch that Sukuna gets hit with. Sukuna, who was already taking damage from regular blue punches from Gojo. Sukuna should have exploded if it was actually 2.5 times. If it was 2.5 times, that'd be fine. Raise to the 2.5. Like, I forget what the calc is, but like, you raise mountain levels of energy to you raise mountain levels of energy, 2 mountain levels of energy, 2 mountain levels of energy. AKA, you multiply mountain level by mountain level by mountain level. Actually, no, I think it's just mountain level by mountain level, half a mountain level. And that's like, I think it's like solar system. Like that's the leap in power, just because of how crazy exponents are. When you're multiplying something by itself, you go with kinetic joules. So like, Yuji clearly doesn't leap that much. Like, he isn't 2.5, he isn't Yuji to the 2.5 power of Yuji stronger. So if you take Black Flash at face value, then realistically, it can't be as powerful as it's stated to be. But just going off of what should be logical, like, Yeah. Regular 214 Yuji should be able to ming Mahito's punches. I just want to talk about Black Flash, and I'll probably make a whole video. I've been thinking, I've had that on the back burner for a while, talking about Black Flash and how it kind of doesn't seem to match, and I'll pull up like the accurate numbers and stuff like that when I actually go to do that video. But I just want to mention it here because we talked about how Demon God Yuji should be stronger than 120% Yuji, and then Liberated Yuji should be much stronger than Demon God Yuji. Maybe 2.5, or Demon God Yuji raised to 2.5 times stronger, which, once again, contentious.
On top of that, Yuji is also much more durable in comparison to what he was before. Sukuna was expecting to wipe Yuji out and kill him with just one punch. However, Yuji ended up surviving and getting back up. So that one punch from Sukuna likely exceeds everything Mahito had done in the past. The reason that I say that is because Sukuna is very much aware of how strong Yuji is and what an attack needs in order to beat him. So Sukuna should be aware of how much power to put into an attack. So I do believe this powerful attack and this one punch Sukuna did should exceed Mahito's Black Flash he did on Yuji earlier that Yuji also survived. However, that's only talking really...
And once again, that's only if you don't think Black Flash is actually like 2 point... Like, I don't know, unless you think Sukuna punches at like solar system level or whatever. But with it being the case, one thing I do want to mention... I just had a Jimmy Neutron Brain Blast. Oh, now the situation, like if you were to ask me, in terms of physical hits, the situation should now be inverted. Like how True Spirit Body of Distorted Execution, whatever the name, that stupid name. That form, how Yuji couldn't reach Mahito with his punches, now with Liberated Yuji at 214, the situation should be reversed. Mahito will literally not be able to damage Yuji. At all. Once again, Sukuna, as he says, Sukuna's one hit, one punch should scale... I'm sorry. But that one punch should scale above literally everything Mahito's done. Everything. Because it's 15-finger Sukuna. Punching. Slobber knocking. And Yuji just gets up and lunges back in. No problem. Well, not no problem, but still minimal problem. So yeah, now the durability situation should be entirely inverted, which is why I believe if Mahito has any chance of winning, he's going to have to run in and try to grab. But even then, on a speed tier wise, unless he opens domain, which is a sure hit, it's highly likely that Mahito can't even touch him. That's how big of a speed gap that should now exist between the two. So even if Mahito would hit, it wouldn't do any damage. And even if he tried to hit, he wouldn't be able to land it. At least that's my view. At least that's my view on it. But that's me. What do you guys think? But another thing I do want to mention. Maybe, like, if once again, this is super giga slopping off Yuji's, like, speed. But remember, Yuji was able to react to the 0.2 second domain of Mahito. He was able to react. He was moving forward. And Yuji should be exponentially faster than he was before. Not literally, but I'm just saying exponentially as in like much faster than before. So you could be able to argue, unless Mahito goes to the 0.2 second domain, which Yuji should be able to counter by simply chopping off whichever limb is afflicted by it, then Yuji could actually probably beat the brakes off of Mahito in his own domain to the point where Mahito couldn't activate the second step of, well, activating his technique inside domain. Because I do think he would need a full domain if he's actually going to, like, do Yuji in. But let's see.
About striking strength. In order for this to actually be a debate, there are two questions that I believe need to be answered first up. Which the first question is, can Yuji still hurt Mahito now that Sukuna is no longer inside of his body?
I presume he's going to say yes, because there's much more video left, but I'm going to say yes for the same reasons I said before. Literally, we know for a fact that the soul attacking ability was a subconscious activation by Yuji. He never did it consciously. Never has, never will. And Sukuna himself never actually helped with that. It was literally just Sukuna being inside Yuji that unlocked that secondary ability. So even with Yuji leaving, he should still have it. The only thing he would have lost is Sukuna's extra soul as protection against idle transfiguration. That's what I think. Let's see what he says.
The second question is, can Mahito's hexes be enough to overcome this massive difference in physical power, assuming Yuji can still hurt Mahito? So up first, I'm going to go over...
For the second one, that's also kind of questionable. I mean, it's kind of sort of. Like, notably, in terms of curse energy amount, just based on the boost that he gets from liberation, despite his body not, like, getting massively buffer or beefy or anything like that, presumably, he should have more than enough curse energy to resist any of the light taps. Say Mahito grazes Yuji and tries to activate Idle Transfiguration, it would be the Nanami situation all over again, where Yuji would be subconsciously protecting his soul with cursed energy. But the question with the real one is, like, We know Yuji's soul is already special because he's able to contain Sukuna, but is it special enough with only subconscious soul knowledge to defend from a fully activated domain? That's the 50. It's hard to scale soul strength because, once again, we never actually get to see that tested all too much, except for Sukuna, who, no matter how strong you think Yuji's soul has gotten, it's not Sukuna level. It is not. I'm sorry, I refuse. I refuse to believe his soul is Sukuna level now. Even one finger Sukuna level now. Or whatever finger it was when Sukuna and got Mahito nearly up out of here. So, I don't know. I think domain diffing could still be a thing, at least for this encounter, especially with 214. 244 or current manga Yuji, maybe not, but let's
entire thing of can Yuji still affect the soul directly? And in my opinion, I do think Yuji is still able to affect the soul and directly hit Mahito. Now, I have a few reasons why I do believe this. Number one, Mahito's reason for why...
Wait a minute. Because y'all caught me lacking one time. I do have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. Just in case y'all thought y'all could catch me lacking. I can see the comments already. That'll be obsessed. That'll be obsessed. That made y'all think about it. I actually don't remember. Did I do that? Whatever.
Hit the soul very much implies that Yuji should still be able to hit the soul now that Sukuna is no longer inside of him. The reason that Mahito says that Yuji can hit the soul is because Yuji is a vessel, and because of the fact Yuji is aware of the fact he has two souls inside of his body, he is able to subconsciously hit the soul. The reason why Yuji should be able to still hit the soul is just because Sukuna is no longer inside of him doesn't mean Yuji should lose all of the knowledge that he gained and the ability to hit the soul to begin with. In other words, while Sukuna is the reason Yuji got the knowledge, Sukuna is not the reason Yuji is able to do it to begin with. Sukuna is only the pathway for Yuji to get that knowledge to begin with. And the second reason is purely because Yuji is able to use the soul book to begin with. I don't think you're
actually... What happened? What in the world? What transpired? What in the world? I'm sorry. I've been lost to the darkness. It's descent. It's darkness. I'd say we're gonna live in shade, but joke's on you, light. I have a way to summon you back to this plane of reality. I've got to back up because I kind of got jump scared by the darkness. It reeks of darkness. Let's see.
Sukuna is only the pathway for Yuji to get that knowledge to begin with. And the second reason is purely because Yuji is able to use the soul book to begin with. I don't think you're actually able to teach soul awareness, or else Todo would have been able to hurt Mahito. And I know...
But to be fair, though, if we're talking about 214 Yuji, wouldn't... I mean, I guess just the ability to use the soul book in general, I guess, yeah. And this is just for him attacking, not resisting the soul. So yeah, that's extra layers. Because yeah, him being able to use the soul book at all, even just at 214, means he should have some sort of understanding of the soul. Ironically enough, Choso should have an understanding of the soul too, because, you know, he's also a dual soul scenario.
Some of you guys might...
Every Culling Games player turns Mahito into a victim, by the way. Anyone that has a domain. Any Culling Games player that has a domain and decent scaling. So, like, Higuruma, maybe? I mean, that's a weird thing. I don't know. Oh, well, yeah, Mahito would be found guilty, and Higuruma's domain is pretty fast, and he always opens with that. Ryu, obviously. Earl, obviously. Kuro, no, because, once again, single soul thing. Druve, weird, we have no scaling for him. Reggie, weird. Very weird. But it depends on how strong you think Megami is relative to Yuji, post-Culling Games, or not post, or post-Shibuya, and then how strong you think Reggie is compared to Megami. And so that's weird, but I usually give that to Mahito. And Yorozu slams. I think that's all the major reincarnate. Oh, and Kashima.
Be like, okay, Todo's just not that smart. Todo is the same person who taught Yuji how to control his cursed energy properly to begin with, and he was already pretty in tune with his very soul to begin with, and even he still couldn't hurt Mahito, so I generally don't think it's something you can teach to begin with. So, yeah, Yuji is still going...
Which is weird. Why does Yuki know how to do it then? I guess the only excuse I could ever chalk up for Yuki knowing anything about the soul is because she's a star plasma vessel. And, like, since she was kind of born automatically by the world in order to be a soul stuffer victim, or like, that sounds so wrong, but like literally just she was born to be a person that was going to be overridden by another soul, that she has subconscious understanding of a secondary soul. That's the only reason. Because like Yuki having a soul book, I'm not saying it comes out of nowhere because she was studying Toji. We know Toji has a special body and that relates back to his soul, but like outside of that, I have no idea how any of that is supposed to logic out. How does she know about this all? Like, it's kind of an established part of her character, but it's such a random thing that it kind of catches me off guard to this day. But let's see.
To be able to hit the soul of Mahito. However, there's another thing that's up in debate and another advantage that Mahito is going to have in this fight. Now that Sukuna is no longer inside of Yuji, Idol Transfiguration will work on Yuji again. However, this should be remembered.
No, not my
Idol
Jordans.
Transfiguration is also not a guaranteed instant one-shot. For example, when Mahito was fighting against Nanami, he needed to land a total of 2 or 3 taps, in his own opinion, before he could actually fully transfigure Nanami. Or an even better example, when Mahito was fighting against Todo, he doesn't think he would be able to actually one-shot Todo in his current state because his soul is basically at 40% HP. So while I don't know the exact amount of taps is going to require Mahito in order to transfigure Yuji, I think it is very safe to say it should take more than 3. However, can Mahito's hacks...
I think, honestly, if Mahito's going for just... let me touch you. Like, if he's just reaching out trying to get a feel in, he would take like 20 taps. Like, you gotta realize, with just how much stronger Yuji's gotten, and like Todo and Nanami, 2 very decently strong characters for the early series, they would both get one-tapped by 214 Yuji. I think he'd atomize them with a single hit. So his curse energy amounts that should be subconsciously protecting his soul, super duper high. And once again, that goes to the fact that if you think Mahito can even tag him with regular touches, which he most likely shouldn't be able to, I think Eternal Flame is going to get into that in a second.
This massive distance in power. Now, this is where I'm also going to start getting a little bit into the battle scenario itself, because I think talking about the battle scenario and where it's going to happen is very, very important. This battle will be happening in Shibuya Station. So let's talk about Mahito's arsenal a little bit. With Mahito's arsenal, he is able to change the shape and form of several people after he touches them. However, sorcerers require several touches, normal people only require about 1. Through this, he's able to do several things, such as turn humans into bombs in order to blind people, turn humans into walls, spikes, projectiles, swords, even combine several people through polymorphic soul isomer using soul multiplicity in order to make just several people combined into one in order to assist him in battle. However, they aren't really that...
I wonder if that's... sorry, this is a completely random thing that has nothing to do with the scaling. But notably...
several people through polymorphic soul ice...
Give me a second. So, he just like me for real, and is completely scared of YouTube. and its systems immediately just like, oh, hey, that's a panel from a manga, and immediately ripping them. If you ever wondered why pretty much all the chapters or anything that I do on the channel is blue, it's because... I am scared. That's why everything's blue and upside down. If you ever wonder that, that's why. I've already gotten 2 copyright strikes on the channel. Luckily enough, they faded with time, but I'm not risking that again. Heck, while things were blue and upside down, one of those strikes still came in. So, like, sorry, I'm terrified. The only reason certain things are upside down is because I'm here. Hello. And that usually confuses YouTube enough, and I try to, like, make sure the panels are never full pages. So, like, YouTube never just runs out and grabs me by the throat. But he does it red. He does it red with the panels. And notably, he takes smaller sections of the panels too. I wonder if that's red because of Eternal Flame or just red because that's what his editing software allows. My editing software allows yellow and blue. Yellow looks nasty. At least, it feels nasty to me. So, like, I always go with blue, but he goes with red.
Soul multiplicity in order to make just several people combined into one in order to assist him in battle. However, they aren't really that, like, durable. They're strong enough to send Todo flying, but at the same time, they're just weak enough in terms of durability to get one shot by Todo, so they're not going to be too much help. But Mahito's also able to change their form. He can go inside of them as well, use them for sneak attacks, etc. Mahito is just very creative with how he uses them. However, Idol Transfiguration also allows Mahito to alter his own form. While we're going to start him in his transformed state, that's not the only state he can enter into. He can grow wings, he can get faster through giving himself horse legs instead. However, it's not applied to be that much faster. He's also able to change himself into blades, change his arms into massive chainsaw blades, etc. The sky is the limit when it comes to what Mahito is capable of doing through shapeshifting. In his transformed state, he's also able to focus certain parts of his body in order to make them more durable, which is what he does directly against Yuji by making half of his body more durable in exchange for the other half being completely exposed. Finally, he has access to his domain expansion, where through his domain expansion he can constantly use item transfiguration on a person. And it should be noted, cursed energy can still be used to defend yourself inside of a domain. Mahito's sure hit inside of the domain is basically 120% amped, and even if Yuji can survive one touch, if he activates the domain, it's basically game over for anyone who's fighting against Mahito. Furthermore, Mahito is also able to cast a 0.2 second domain.
Okay, so it looks like we agree on that. Even the idea, like, sure, Yuji definitely has way better stats, but if Mahito even wiggles out a domain, like, say he activates the domain with his toes, boom, Yuji's most likely cooked. So
his domain
we do agree on that.
Stands for a total of 0.2 seconds.
Now, this is what I'm interested to hear Eternal Flame's thoughts on. I wonder if he agrees with me in the sense that, like, 0.2 seconds is too quick, even for Mahito to do anything substantial. Like, sure, Toto had simple domain, and he was still tagged because the domain activation was folded into one, and usually doesn't have that. But, I don't know, that's soul girth, and considering the tap still seems to be one tap for a 0.2 second domain, it's not like, if I had to imagine, when Mahito taps you outside of domain, it is just that. It is a tap, and then he tries to do whatever he does with his intentions behind that tap. With his full domain, it's not just a tap, as the image he just showed from the anime, it's a like he grabs and he latches onto it. He's just pumping his curse technique. Nothing cannot be sus anymore. I'm sorry, but he latches on and he starts pumping his curse technique into you over and over and over again, like fueling you up, making you nice, thick, and juicy with him. With his curse technique, all right? Just with his curse technique. He's pumping you full with his curse technique. But with that being the case, that's why I think the 0.2 second domain is the equivalent of one tap. Because all Toto lost was a hand, because it was open and closed so quickly. And ultimately, I think without Suguna there, Mahito has no incentive to use a 0.2 second domain. He might as well go for the full one, at least in my opinion. At least the simple domain was mainly used to take out Toto. That was the main reason that thing was used, because it clearly wasn't used to take out Itadori.
However, are any of these hacks is going to be enough in order to beat the now massively stronger, faster, and more durable Yuji, or is he going to get pummeled into the ground? Well, I have a few scenarios that we're going to go for this versus battle, and some win cons for both of them, surprisingly enough. Now, the first scenario I have in mind is basically what...
Mahito has one win con in its domain. I kid you not. If he does not open domain under the assumption that Sukuna is still there because he can't tell because he doesn't know about the eye thing, he loses. That's the only, at least in my opinion, that's the only win con Mahito has. I don't think 0.2 second is enough. I just see Yuji chopping off whatever body part is afflicted and then going back to beating Mahito while his curse technique is shut down. I don't think any regular taps would be enough because he'd never be fast enough to hit him. I don't think anything else is enough except for domain. That's why I hope Yuji learns simple domain. I was like, now current Yuji would literally just dominate Mahito because he would be way too fast. Like the moment Mahito goes to open domain, Yuji would open simple domain before like the barrier would even fully close if he doesn't just dash on out of there. That's another thing. Maybe able to argue, I mean, it's weird because of how quickly Mahito's domain forms, but like, you could argue that Yuji could just dodge out of the way. He could just leave the domain before the barrier actually closes if he's feeling extra metal. But that's like a question of how fast Yuji actually is physically.
I imagine would actually happen being a normal scenario, where Mahito is not immediately aware of the fact Sukuna is no longer present inside of Yuji, so he immediately goes in for hand-to-hand combat on Yuji, thinking that's the best move and scenario for him, and only to immediately get destroyed and stomped. If you guys couldn't tell by how I was talking earlier on, Yuji just massively outscales Mahito completely, because while Mahito in terms of physical strength and speed scales slightly above Yuji in the past, Yuji has gotten much stronger up to this point. And while Mahito has gotten much more durable, I do think Yuji is going to straight up chip away at Mahito and kill him before Mahito gets the chance to do anything else, especially with this massive power and speed difference that exists now in Yuji in comparison to what was before. However, I don't think this should have been a surprise for any of you. Even Mahito himself notes the dangers of directly going against a weaker Yuji in terms of hand-to-hand combat, albeit he didn't have his transform state, but Mahito knows directly the dangers of going against Yuji in hand-to-hand combat. So this much stronger Yuji absolutely destroying Mahito in hand-to-hand is likely no surprise. Now, the next scenario I have in mind is basically one where Mahito actually keeps his distance and occasionally goes in for direct hits. Because this should be noted, Mahito using range attacks or transfigured humans will not be enough to damage Yuji up to this point. His main and only win con will be using idle transfiguration on Yuji. So,
and even then, right? The only reason Mahito was able to play the range game so well against Yuji is one, because he had the options, and two, was because he was actually relative enough in speed that the attacks that he would launch out, well, speed and attack potency, that the attacks he would launch out would actually do something. If Mahito, with the gap in speed that should now exist between Mahito and Yuji, if Mahito tries to do anything that's based with the idle transfigured humans, by the time he goes to morph them, Yuji's already punched him in the mouth. Like that's how big the speed gap should be now. Because scaling the 15-finger Maguna at all, especially one who doesn't have his physical output nerfed, or physical movements nerfed, it's way too crazy. Even if it's super low end relativity, I'm more than fine to admit that. Any relativity, the ability to tag 15-finger Maguna at all is more than the fastest Disaster Curse can claim. And you needed that with just physicals, no AoE attacks.
He's going to need to, in order to get Yuji off guard so he can land several pats on Yuji before he quickly moves away. That's going to be Mahito's main way of winning. However, it's only going to be a way of stalling to inevitably the third scenario, or a scenario where Yuji wins, catching Mahito and finally catching him off guard and being able to beat Mahito in scenario 1 like he did before, where Yuji...
Yeah, I agree. Like, if scenario 2 starts happening, and let's say Yuji's holding back for whatever reason, the moment Mahito goes in and goes to be like, Yuji, and he goes and grabs him, Yuji, like, most likely, like, have you ever seen, this is something that can happen in real life, I've seen it before, have you ever seen two people fight, and someone throws a punch or tries to go for a grab or something, and then their wrist gets grabbed? I legit see something happening like that, where Yuji would end up intercepting Mahito when he goes to grab him and just start... Essentially, remember what Toji did to Ino? Where he just multi-wombo comboed him? That's the exact thing that Yuji would do to Mahito.
Beating Mahito in combat. Now, this next scenario is Mahito's main win con, which is literally just him expanding his domain. Now, unfortunately, Yuji currently doesn't have a way around the domain. Even though Yuji should take several touches in order for his soul to be transfigured, it is not going to be immediate, but Yuji is going to end up losing nonetheless because of Mahito's domain. In Mahito's domain, he's going to get the situation where he can land as many touches without transfiguration as he need, and he's going to be able to transfigure Yuji's soul away so he can finally get the kill on Yuji. However, this is all assuming that he's A, fast enough to even cast the domain against Yuji, B, smart enough to be able to know when the time is to cast the domain, and C, survive for long enough. Because if Yuji is able to kill him before Mahito can realize he needs to cast his domain in order to win, Mahito loses. However, I just don't see this being very likely to happen in most situations, purely because of the type of fighter Mahito is, especially when it comes to being around Yuji, and Mahito's love of absolutely breaking Yuji and destroying his soul. He's not the type to immediately go for using the domain against Yuji.
The only thing is, though, I do agree with him, though. Mahito, especially if he doesn't know that Yuji is much stronger, would definitely not want to immediately go for domain. But I think the moment Mahito starts getting the bricks beaten off of him by Yuji, like Yuji's out there wombo comboing him, since Mahito can open domain from pretty much anywhere, thanks to Idle Transfiguration, he's able to morph his body as he wants. I could see a very similar scenario happening to like the Nanami and Yuji Jump Fest that happens in Season 1, where Mahito's getting absolutely beaten down, like he's losing chunks upon chunks upon chunks of his soul from every single attack Yuji's throwing at him if he doesn't get like 3-shot. And then he just opens his domain, like in his mouth, or in like, Yuji would literally have to tear him apart and like hunt for wherever his soul is, wherever that core part of Mahito is, and try to beat that down alone, because anything can turn into Mahito's domain. His feet can turn into his domain, his hands can obviously domain, his mouth can turn into domain, his brain can probably domain, like anything on Mahito can domain. Unlike characters like Sukuna, or characters like Gojo, or like most characters with domain, removing Mahito's arms isn't enough to stop him from domaining. So you would have to argue that Yuji can like 3-shot him or something, which may be possible. Like, don't get me wrong, Yuji's way stronger, but it's hard to argue with Mahito's extensive durability.
He likes to break him, he likes to destroy him, so I don't see that being very likely of a scenario to happen. However, it is Mahito's only win con that I see being possible for Mahito. This is all without talking about the possibility that Yuji might land a Black Flash in this fight. which is something he should be able to do because it's not Sukuna. So Yuji's not going to be out of his mind that he won't be able to think properly on using the Black Flash and control himself properly enough to use the Black Flash. Furthermore, he will also sell the Divergent Fist as well, which is extremely useful for catching Mahito off guard, especially considering the fact after the Mahito fight, Yuji is able to control the Black Flash at will, directly stated by the narrator themselves. So if Yuji really needs to end the fight, it's possible that he could just land the Black Flash, and it's much more in character for Yuji to land the Black Flash than anybody else, considering Yuji is by far and away the most skilled user of the Black Flash in current day. So while Mahito has a lot of hacks, and he actually does have a win con in his domain, I just don't see it being likely that Mahito is going to win, purely because Mahito likes to explore and he likes to experiment with his fights. Mahito's personality is going to be his ultimate downfall in this battle, because Mahito does have a win con in his domain, but it's not going to be in character for him to activate his domain. However, if you want to give Mahito a win just because he actually does have a way to win through his domain and Yuji doesn't have a way to counter the domain, then congrats, you have your Mahito win con. However, if Mahito doesn't have his domain, basically in every other scenario, Yuji kind of completely destroys him. However, that's just my opinion on this fight and who I actually think wins. Just remember, you guys voted on this because I did put a poll out on whether I should do this fight or fight against someone else. I might still do Toji versus Mahito. I don't know. I really want to see what you guys think in the comment section down below. I very specifically didn't mention any Toji scaling in this video, purely because I didn't feel like including that if I actually did want to make a Toji versus Mahito vid. However, I'm gonna see y'all later.
Here's the thing, like, I love the app, so, like, I mention the scaling of how I feel about other characters all the time. So I understand, like, the content creator idea of, like, I don't want to mention this, because I need y'all to, I can't let y'all know, just in case it makes something else. But, yeah, I agree 100%. I think 3 out of 10 times Mahito can win if he realizes what happened soon enough. If Mahito can't figure out that Sukuna is no longer there, he does. No matter what, he loses every single time then. But if Mahito comes into the battle or is able to figure out that Sukuna isn't there, or he just risks his life, like he goes for the, once again, I don't think the 0.2 second domain is enough. He would need a full extensive domain to beat 214 Yuji, and I don't think he could even beat current Yuji, because current Yuji likely has some soul defense knowledge, based on the soul book given by Yuki and all the amps that are implied there. So yeah, I 100% agree with Eternal Flame on this. Mahito has 1 win con, Yuji has all other win cons, just beating Mahito.
Have a good day. Peace out.
That'll be a video. Peace out indeed. Is this 70 Sins music? Hold on, we're gonna let it play out fully. Okay, there we go. I was waiting for the end screen. But we're gonna let it play out fully. Because, hey, playing videos all the way out to the end, it helps out a whole lot, trust me. So we're gonna let it rock all the way. Okay, so he staggers them. I just put them all up at once at the end. I usually do about 10 seconds. Let's see. Please! Alright. And before y'all ask me, hey, Pencil, when are you going to do a reaction to what if Bardock and Gine survived? Extended full story. Yeah, that 3 hour and 20 minute long video? Never. We would be here for 1,000 years. But overall, yes, an amazing... I mean, like, of course, it's Eternal Flame. Eternal Flame always cooks. But yeah, if you couldn't tell, this was most certainly a worthy video. I agree with literally everything he says. I have no critiques. He's a W content creator. The link to the original video will be in the description down below. His channel will also be linked down below. Fantastic content creator, man. Honestly, W video. He has a couple other videos. I think he had like a Sukuna's the Grim Reaper video that I saw him release relatively recently. So I want to react to that one too. I'm very, very excited. I have been watching Eternal Flame on the side. You know, I got to sneak it in here and there, but I've been trying to save some of his videos solely so I can react to them properly. So good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. However, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave Soul Slapper in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Once again, please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dagger the Pencil, writing off.
I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, so Connor Plays, Redle 4765, and Greyhound. I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, Demix LND, and Igneal. I'd like to give a donga thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. And I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchio, Joaquin, Idem Okami, and China Doll 09. I'd like to give a thicker than a snicker thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another thicker than a frozen jar of peanut butter thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.